I think he's got to take another step. I don't know. And I'm being honest. I don't know. He's got to make better decisions. He's got to make quicker decisions. He's got to go through his progressions better. He's got to run less. They've got the weapons. And people said, oh, he's got to get the weapons. Well, okay, so he's got two really good receivers right now. So we'll see. But he's got to take the step to the next level. Otherwise, this team is not a Super Bowl team.
All right, welcome back in, everybody. Rob Ellis, Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. My distinct pleasure to be joined by our next guest, and he's coming to us live. Look at and the hair is perfect. He's got the shades on from the NovaCare complex. Looking good on this beautiful May day. Howard Eskin, the one and only. What's happening, genius?
Well, it's a little warm out here, Rob, but I figured I'd give you a little ambiance of the Eagles with the NovaCare complex in the background. The shades are just a nice touch because, although we had sun on the day they predicted rain, we have sun on the day now they're predicting sun. So it's a little warm out here.
Your weather beefs. We're going to get into your weather beefs in a minute. But what do we got? Oakley's? What's going on with the shades? What do we
the prescription. They're actually prescription. They're Oakley prescriptions. Okay. And I know you can't see it on the screen. I guess somewhere in one of the corners here it says King. There's an inscription that says King. I forget which. Let me see which. It's on my left eye. It's on this one here.
You are so out of control, man. It is unbelievable. But look, Howard, you're there today, and the Bradberry news comes down a few hours ago, whatever it was, and just the latest in just a number of aggressive moves this offseason. I think a lot of Eagles fans went in. I mentioned this earlier, optimistic about this offseason. But I think they've gone above and beyond. Did you know they were going to be quite this aggressive in what they've done?
Yeah, I thought they'd be aggressive. How aggressive? Who would have thought that they would have gotten A.J. Brown? Remember, Tennessee at one point said they didn't want to trade him. Then they realized they couldn't keep him because they weren't going to sign him for that number. So when you look at that really, okay, I assumed they were going to get a defensive lineman. And if they had to move up a little bit, I know they were, and everybody talks to all the teams, so it's not rocket science here. It's not earth-shattering news that they were talking to every team, and they knew that Baltimore, Jordan Davis only had 3 trips. So it was Baltimore, Dallas, and the Eagles. So they thought there was a pretty good chance that Baltimore was going to take him. So moving up there was not a surprise. A.J. Brown was the only surprise, but to be aggressive, I think Howie's always tried to be aggressive. Now, it hasn't always worked, but he had enough draft picks to be able to do it. He's got draft picks next year in case he feels he needs a quarterback. So that takes it down the line. But now, once Bradberry, who knew that Bradberry was going to become available? This is what fans don't understand. Teams look at rosters, and they look at the other team's roster, and they say, they're not going to keep this guy, and they're not going to keep this guy. And you know what? He could probably play for us, but we won't have to pay him as much as that team was paying him. So I'm not surprised at this, but we didn't know that Bradberry would be available. So, yeah, and they were just waiting until he agreed on the number that they wanted to pay him. And that's what it comes down to when a guy's out there. So he signs a 1-year contract. If he's good enough, he'll get a multi-year. But it's about this year. Are they a better team? Yes. Because he was aggressive? Yes. Are they good enough to go to the Super Bowl? I don't think they're there yet. And it still comes down to one question, the quarterback. Can the quarterback take the next step? That's what it really comes down to.
No doubt. But Howard, just to stay on the defense for a second, then we'll jump over to the quarterback. I mean, all of a sudden now a team that couldn't get after the quarterback well enough adds a Hassan Reddick, adds a Jordan Davis, gets Brandon Graham back. We were really always been concerned about the linebackers. You got Nakobe Dean, you got Kazir White added to that mix. And then you go to the secondary with Bradberry now. I mean, I just see I see much better options for Jonathan Gannon in terms of having the ability to maybe be a little bit more aggressive or just to change things up from a schematic standpoint.
Well, I think people were overly critical of Jonathan Gannon last year, just like they were at the beginning of the year. Some of the dopes on WIP. I work with some of those.
Of course,
dopes.
Not myself included, or you. Yes,
No, neither one of us.
Yeah.
I wanted to fire Nick Sirianni after 5 games. Idiots. He's got to get to know his team. The players got to get to know him. And the toughest part of their schedule was the first 5 or 6 games of the season.
Yeah.
I mean, come on now. It was ridiculous. And Jonathan Gannon had to get to know his defense, had to get to know his players. And, he had a couple of players that didn't play at the level that people expected and the coaches expected. Fletcher Cox was one of them. Hargrave played well, and then he kind of tailed off a little bit. Josh Sweat, when you look at the numbers at the end of the year, he says, well, that's fine. But there was games that because it wasn't quite as good as he needed to be. Derek Barnett. So he had to get to know his players. But yeah, Jonathan Gannon, I think, is a very good coach. He's now got more pieces. His defensive line should be better. His defense, I got to say, will be better. So with all those things considered, they're going to be a better team. As much as offense is the biggest part of the game, the reality is it's pretty simple. You've got to stop the other team, especially when it comes down to the fourth quarter.
Yeah, no question. And that was certainly an issue last year. But Howard, you mentioned it. Go to the other side of the ball and they get him AJ Green, to go with Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, a pretty good running attack, arguably the best offensive line in football. What's your feel right now? We sit here, we're a few months away from this thing getting real here, but what's your sense with Jalen Hurts as we go into this season?
I think he's got to take another step. I don't know. And I'm being honest. I don't know. He's got to make better decisions. He's got to make quicker decisions. He's got to go through his progressions better. He's got to run less. They've got the weapons. And people said, oh, he's got to get the weapons. Well, okay. So he's got 2 really good receivers right now. So we'll see. But he's got to take the step to the next level. Otherwise, this team is not a Super Bowl team. And they can't even think about the Super Bowl. But he's got to be better. I mean, he says all the right things. He bonds with his teammates. He works hard. But it still comes down to the talent on the field and making the right decisions.
How much of an advantage is it that he's now been with Sirianni for 2 years? I mean, in college, he transferred. He had different offensive coordinators. There was a lot going on. His first year, it was Doug. He hasn't had that kind of continuity. How big is that piece of it?
Well, that's got to be important because his coordinator's the same. His quarterback coach is the same. His head coach is the same. So now he's got no excuses. So I don't want to hear, well, I've been with different coaches and I've only had 1 year, so I'm really not a 3-year player. He's a 3-year player. The first year he still learned, still played a little bit. So I don't want to hear about last year being his first full year. He's got to take the next step, but the coaches being there from year to year obviously will help him a little bit.
All right, let's jump around a little bit, man. Sixers, and we saw them bow out, in really embarrassing fashion, for sure, last week. And players admitting as much. It wasn't even just you and I saying it on the radio or here. They said we didn't have the heart that was necessary to win this thing. Where do they go from here, Howard, with this bunch?
They might take a trip somewhere and go on vacation because I think next year they're in no better. And I don't know how they can be in better shape next year. They're not in better shape. They, despite what that fraud of a president, Daryl Morey, said, they're not close to a championship. They don't have flexibility. What flexibility? I mean, can somebody help me here? They can't trade a first-round pick until 2029. All right, so that's out to trade Tobias Harris. What do they have on the team to trade to get better? All right, so let me go to Tobias Harris. The only reason you want to trade him is to get a free agent. So now, how are you going to do that if you can't trade Tobias Harris and open up some money? All right, so that's number one. Number two, what players do they have that are trade chips? Maxey, Embiid? Well, they're not going to trade Maxey. I wouldn't be opposed to trading Embiid. Again, it's got to be for the right deal, and it's got to be somebody. Teams have, our team's close enough to take him. I don't think you will win a championship with Joel Embiid. Number one, he's not a leader. Number two, he can't carry a team. And he's a really, really good player. Don't misconstrue or confuse what I'm saying. He's a really good player. But it's carried a team that lost their second and third best players. And they still are 14 games over 500. The Sixers they still have the same head coach, which I think the players are starting to bail out on him. James Harden, I haven't even mentioned him yet. He is not the same player. That was a bad trade. I know they had to get rid of Ben Simmons, but you didn't have to trade with New Jersey. But Morey had such a love affair with James Harden. He was not going to do anything else The Sacramento deal probably could have happened. I'd rather go into the future with Halliburton and Buddy Hield coming off the bench because Morey traded his whole bench. He traded picks and now doesn't give him flexibility. I don't know where they're no better next year, I think, than this year. But they're going to tell you that because they want their season ticket holders to renew the tickets, although they already started billing those people. So it's just, all this nonsense that Morey puts out there that Brian Windhurst, who I know is a pretty good reporter, but he gets fed by Daryl Moore. Oh, he's going to try, the word is try, to be really aggressive this offseason. He can try, but I don't know what he can do. I mean, Don't give people false hope because they already had false hope this year. They weren't, while they were still playing, they weren't even close to the same teams in the playoffs. Miami or Boston or the other side in the West. And in their conference, Boston, Miami,
Milwaukee
will still be better. I don't know if other teams might take a step up. Atlanta had a bad year. I can't figure them out. Or and maybe a 5 or 6 seed next year. It's just I don't know where they go. They have the wrong president who acts as the general manager. They have the wrong coach, and they don't have players. They don't have players that are winners. Is there any leader? There's no leader. There's nobody on that team that can carry a team. And that's where I think Embiid fails. And I'm tired of his whining and woe is me. And I really felt a lot of pain. I don't want to hear that. Just go out there and play. I don't want to hear that. I wish I had Jimmy Butler on that. I wish we didn't lose him. Don't say that right after the game when the other players in there are fighting with you. They fought with you to play the game. You might say it a month or so down the line, but the Sixers have made a lot of mistakes. The process was a joke, was a farce, and all those morons and nitwits that were drinking the Kool-Aid got what they deserved. Nothing. They got one first-round pick, and he only dropped the 3 because he was hurt all the time. And who's to say Embiid stays healthy all the year? What first-round picks did they make with all the first-round? Nerlens Noel, stiff. Michael Carter-Williams, stiff. Jahlil Okafor, stiff. Dario Saric, who people love, stiff. I mean, it's stiff.
Markelle Fultz.
Markelle Fultz. It's just you go right down the line. It's a joke.
Well, Howard,
Ben Simmons was a fraud too.
Right. Well, here's the ironic part, right? They went through the process because they couldn't get out of the second round. They didn't want to be in that perennial, just good enough to get in the playoffs and get bounced. And guess what? This group hasn't gotten out of the second round. It's unbelievable.
That's what they are. But wait a minute. You should relax because Glenn Rivers, there's only one doc in Philadelphia, and that's Julius Erving. And Rivers has not earned that name. Yeah. Glenn Rivers said after they lost on Thursday night, I've done a terrific job. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. I'm glad you think so.
And you're the one who asked them the question pointedly. And I'll give you props, Howard. First of all, you always show up, number one. Number two, you never shy away from the tough questions. I will tell you that. You've battled Glenn quite a bit since he's been here. Give me a percentage on Glenn being back as the Sixers coach next year. Is this thing a stone cold lock?
No, I think it's 95%. And here's the reason I say that. Everybody assumes they throw the Lakers out there. His agent is putting the Lakers out there because he wants people to want Glenn Rivers as their coach. You'd have to be brain dead. With what happened here in Philadelphia, you got to be delusional to hire him as a head coach. Why would the Lakers? First of all, he would only want to go there because he just extends another extension of coaching. He probably got 2 or 3 years. He's only got. I wouldn't be surprised if he's going during the season next year if things don't go well. But right. Why would the Lakers hire him? Why would anybody hire him? I don't. And the Lakers aren't going to win. I don't understand why they would hire him. Yeah. They can get other coaches. Why would they hire him? That doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't get it either. And it's like if people aren't aware of what this guy's done since he won it in Boston. That was 2008. I mean, we're talking about 14
2 decades ago.
Yeah.
With 4 Hall of Famers. 2 decades ago. Yeah. 2 decades. Yeah. And the reason he's won all these games is because he's coached so long. Do you know in 23 years of coaching, now the only guy there is Spoelstra, because I think Spoelstra's been with Miami for like 25 or 26 years.
Right.
Glenn Rivers, with all the jobs he's had, has only been out of work 5 days. He always sets up his next job. He beats the posse to get to the next job. And that's what happens. Think about that. Only 5 days out of work and all those years with multiple jobs. They ran, and the thing is, they ran him out of the Clippers because the players got tired of him. Why would the Lakers, in the same city, because they know the situation, hire him? I think Sixers fans are stuck with him. Now, just think of this. 2 of the guys on the Sixers staff at one point, one is the coach of Boston, and one is the coach of Phoenix, who is the coach of the year.
Monty Williams.
Monty Williams. Yep. So it's pretty sad, but I think he's back to start the season. I'll give it 95%. I'll always give that 5% because Daryl Morey almost never tells us the truth anyway. When he said yes, he said yes. Okay, good. Knock yourself out.
Last one on the Sixers. I do want to hit you with the Phillies, and I want to also let people know about the Eagles Autism Challenge, the bike ride, which you take part in as well. But Harden, to me, looks like a guy who's cooked, and Daryl Morey has this obsession with him where I don't think he can look at it objectively. What's your sense of where that thing goes? Are they going to give him a long-term extension, Harden?
I wouldn't be shocked because they tampered, but everybody tampers, and nobody complained because the Nets were glad to get rid of him. So I'm sure he told him, hey, listen, I'll take care of you with the extension. If they give him a max contract as an extension, Daryl Morey ought to go directly to jail. He should be locked up. He should be locked up. Should be locked up for stealing money as the president right now. He ought to go out in handcuffs. That ought to be a promotion for stealing money. I just can't believe it. But what I could see happening. All right, James, listen, I'll give you 3 years, 35 a year. He's due to make 47 next year, and that's his decision, which he obviously is not going to give out. He'll opt in at the worst. So I'll give him 3 years at 35. I don't want him for 3 years at $35 million a year. Nope. Why do you want him for 3 years at $35 million? I think he's going to give him some kind of extension. But here's the sad part. He's here next year for at least $47 million. He's here next year, one way or the other. He's here next year.
He is a shell of himself. Howard, I wouldn't give him a dime this year. I would not give him a dime.
Wait a minute. Embiid said, don't expect the same player you saw in Houston. He's now a facilitator, and Daryl Morey didn't agree with that. Well, you didn't trade for a facilitator. You can get anybody off the street to be a facilitator. You can get guys that are undrafted players to be facilitators. That's not what you got him for. Yeah, they got problems with James Harden. He's done. He's done. And you know what? He's never won. He's never won. The last time Tim Lager, and I'm trying to remember exactly what he said something. The last time Harden won a 7th game in the playoffs was 2015. It was something about the end of a playoff series. It was 2015, and he didn't play most of the fourth quarter with Houston. So it's something that just shows you that he's just not a winner. He's not a winner. It's that simple. He's not a winner.
And they lack that. They lack toughness in a big way. When the going gets tough, they all check out. That is a major issue with this team. That's for sure. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Howard.
Absolutely.
Phillies. Trying to figure them out, man. They had the West Coast swing where they play well, they score some runs. They come back home last night, and it's hibernation time again. What do we have with this team?
Well, just you got to look at the deeper than the results. They were lucky to win 3 out of 4. Lucky. Every game, I think the bullpen imploded. Every game. Yep. I think every game the bullpen imploded. So they were lucky in that regard. Okay, they had some offense. Bryce Harper didn't play the first game of the homestand. I'm not sure whether he's going to play the second game because he's hurt. That's an issue. I don't think he'll play the outfield all year. I don't think you're going to see him in the outfield all year. I think he's going to have some kind of surgery. But Ohtani had what people are telling me is a similar injury. He hit the whole year, and then he had surgery at the end of the year. So he'd be available early next season. So Schwarber can't hit with 2 strikes. Let's make that clear. He can't hit with 2 strikes. Strikes out 4 times in the first game against the Padres. And he can't play defense. He's a nice player, but he's not a nice player to play every day. That's the difference. And look at Didi Gregorius, when he plays, he's cooked. and Stott obviously is not ready yet. And the bottom of their lineup in that game against the Padres, you had Stott and Quinn hitting like 130 and 150. It's brutal.
Yeah.
And JT Realmuto, that was a bad contract. Now he's a nice player, and he's a good catcher, but he's a 260 hitter, which he's not hitting 260 now, and he's probably 20 home runs.
Yep.
I don't know that you give him. They didn't have to give him 5 years. They made a mistake there too. So there's a lot of challenges here with this with the Phillies team.
If you had to look at Morey, I'm sorry, with Girardi or Rivers, who's been more of a bust or a disappointment to you in their time here?
Well, I would say they both have been a disappointment. I kind of probably have to say Rivers more so, because although he said, "What did people expect?" That's another thing he said. What did they expect when I came here?
Yeah,
well,
give me a break.
2 years before he got here, they won 51. 3 years before he got here, they won 52. I mean, spare me, will you? So he's a disappointment, but Girardi's a disappointment. I don't think any of them. Well, you know what? I don't think Girardi will be here next year. It looks like he's going to make it through the year here, but I don't think for sure he's going to be here next year. It's not Dave Dombrowski's guy. You know, I still can't get the name Jim Leland out of my mind. I know he's 77, but Dombrowski loves him. He hired him twice as manager. Hired him twice. So to take over, if there's a change this year, I wouldn't be surprised that they bring Leland in just to get these guys. I don't know what you can do with a baseball player, but they've got to be better. And there's inconsistencies in the offense. They're not going to score 9 and 10 runs like all these fans thought they would. But I don't even know if they're playing good. Start okay.
Yeah.
And the offense is still too inconsistent.
All right. This is what I love about you. So, you know, you're not afraid to ask the tough questions at the press conferences. You're always there, but you're always in a beef with someone. And I didn't think when I was scrolling through social media the other day, you'd be in a beef with Cecily Tynan of ABC, of Channel 6. What is happening here where you're battling with Cecily Tynan?
Okay. I'm out playing in a charity golf tournament. And we're all prepared to come off the golf course. We're just waiting for the lightning and the heavy rain. Yeah. And all of a sudden the sun pops out. So I had to stop. I don't even know what hole I was on. I said, what the hell is going on around here? So I just wrote a tweet that the weather people are clueless. And they must have got their meteorology degree at Target. Then people said, well, it wasn't Target, it was Walmart. And it wasn't Walmart, it was CVS. And it wasn't CVS. And they just go down the list of stores. So she takes offense to it. That's the reason I got in a beef with her. Because they are they create these dramatics. Schools were closed. Schools were called out early. Businesses, restaurants, I know some of them closed at night because they said, nobody's coming out anyway. So businesses lost money. Schools had to cancel either a full day or part of a day. And she says she's perplexed in her tweet. I'm perplexed why people are so upset about the forecast. Well, what's the difference between a warning, a watch, and a warning? That's not the point. You dramatized it. You made it pretty clear that by 2 or 3 o'clock, we were going to get heavy rain, lightning, thunderstorms and lightning, and possible tornadoes. That's your forecast. Own it, baby. Own it. Stop with all this nonsense. Then she goes back and forth, and then she puts out. She's really cute with her tweet. She says, "Well, the good thing is, I got my kids played 2 soccer games, and my daughter played a lacrosse game." And I'm trying to think. Wait a minute, how did that happen? They had to call those off earlier in the day. How did that happen? And here was the topper. And she really piles on and tries to create this sympathy thing. She piles on, she says, and it was great that their 90-year-old grandmother in failing health got to see them.
Oh, my
Number
God.
one, even if she wasn't in failing health, Why would you bring a 90-year-old out when the forecast calls for severe weather? What are you telling people? I don't believe any of that she said. I don't believe it. And I kind of got an inkling from a couple of people that those games were those games never happened. I'm getting excited here. Those games never happened. So, but I feel good for the 90-year-old grandmother in failing health. What was she watching? Old videos of them?
Oh my God.
Why would you bring a 90-year-old grandmother in failing health out the games anyway? But hey, listen, here's the bottom line. She takes umbrage to this, and she's not alone. They got to take. Hey, listen, I was wrong. Just say I was wrong. It's not. And then people say, well, you're wrong with the things you say on the air. Mine are opinions. I don't cost people money. I don't close schools. I wish I had that power. I can't do that. But weather people can.
Yes.
I'll never forget, this was years ago, and she was on Channel 6. All the weather people predicted 8 to 10 inches of snow. So I went on what then was Periscope. Now Twitter goes live. And I'm driving around Delaware County, and I'm going live. And on people, I'm looking for the snow for you. I'm telling you, I'm not the Channel 6 fan, but I'm out there looking for snow. Maybe I'll find it. I had 38,000 views in a quarter hour. I mean, it's because people were laughing. We're laughing. I mean, you are wrong sometimes. Suck it up. It's part of the job. That's all. I don't have personally anything against her. It's weather people, but she chimed in. Okay, baby, you're chiming in. I'm chiming in too. Don't challenge me with that kind of nonsense.
Oh my God, that was an epic rant right there, man. That was unbelievable. All right, last one.
I can't wait for the next. Hey, listen, she predicted sunshine today. Hey, Cecily, congratulations.
All right, last one. I know how much you do from a charitable standpoint. You give a lot of your time.
Yeah, listen, nothing as this is personal. Okay, so just everybody got to relax here.
Cecily's coming on next. She's going to debate you. We'll deal with that. No, but Saturday you got a biggie coming up Saturday, Howard, because I know I'm in for you at WIP at 8:00, and we'll be chatting then as well. But you got the Eagles Autism bike ride challenge coming up this Saturday.
Yeah, and the important part is the bike ride. I got my bike ready. I'm ready to roll. But the most important thing is to raise money for autism research. I have family members on the spectrum, and I met a lot of families that have kids on the spectrum. And I learned a lot about it, and I realized how important it is. And every year I go to the wall. Mike Trout was great to me recently. Bryce Harper's been good to me. Mike Trout, I sent him a text, and he sent me a game used bat. I just got $5,500 for a donation. Awesome. He sent me spikes and batting gloves, which I have up for auction now for the charity. And then I get people that just donate. I've had players, I've had coaches, I've had a lot of people. Kobe Bryant, may he rest in peace, donated $2,408 the last year he was alive for his 2 numbers in the NBA. Mike Trout always donated $2,700, but now I asked him for a bat because I knew it would get more. So there's people out there, but the important thing, the bike ride's great, and the people out there, it's a ride, it's a 5K walk and run, but the most important thing is to create awareness and thus raise money for autism research. And the Eagles have taken this on. They have a separate department. None of the money raised goes to those salaries. The separate department that does all those things and puts it all together. And I just try to help. That's what I try to do with all the nonsense that people get on me for. By the way, some guy got on me. You said the Phillies were going to trade for Jose, or was going to get Jose Bautista. Well, that was what I was told, and they were working on it. I didn't say that. I said they're working on a deal with Don Brown back then. But in the end, I was right, because the Phillies did have Jose Bautista for a little while. So I was right. So, I'm right. But
there you go. Take that, Cecily. Yeah, there you go. Howard, listen, man, you go to PhiladelphiaEagles.com and that's how you can donate. And yeah, obviously you'll be updating stuff on your Twitter as well. But this has been a blast, man. I appreciate you hopping on with me today. And Saturday morning,
I'm gonna try to be on the phone while I'm doing and give updates while I'm on the ride.
We do it every year. Yeah, you and I have done it the last 3-4 years. So I'm looking forward to it.
I'll do that, and I'll leave you with this as far as meteorology. I was a meteorologist for 1 week at Channel 3 when they gave everybody vacation. They asked me to do it. I just stay at the desk. I said, "No, I'm going." That week, we had a blizzard, one of the worst blizzards in the history of Philadelphia. We had an ice storm which shut down the city 2 days later, and the National Weather Service called Channel 3 and said, "You know what? He did a great job." It does. You don't have to know. It's not rocket science, all right? All right. It's sunny out, by the way. It's sunny out right now.
There you go.
That's my
forecast.
All right.
Hey, you are the man genius, and we always appreciate it. All right, brother. Thank you.
All right, Rob. A pleasure. Take care.
Howard, be good, man. I'll talk to you soon. All right. That was wow. Unbelievable. All right, we're going to step aside. We keep it rolling. Howard's the best. We keep it rolling. Dan Klecko is going to join us when we come back. Don't go anywhere. We'll continue with the Eagles discussion with Dan, who played for the Birds, played for the Pats, played for the Colts, won 3 rings in the process. So don't go anywhere. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network.